How's it going, fellas? Today I'm showing you guys how to make homemade pizza that'll beat any store-bought or frozen pizza you've ever had. I've played around with this recipe for about 3 years at this point, and no dough I've ever made has come close to how good this one comes out. So I really urge you guys to try this one out. Before everything, I'm testing to see if my yeast is still alive. I've had this for a couple months now and I'm just about out, so I wanted to check if it was still kicking it. To test, all you need to do is add some slightly warm water to the yeast and wait about 5 minutes. If there's no activity like bubbling, then the only thing they're kicking is the bucket, like mine here. So one grocery store trip later, we can start. In a mixer, measure 470 grams of all-purpose flour. I literally had exactly 471 grams left in this bag, which is great, but will be problematic later. But I already made one trip to the grocery store and that's enough. Next up, you'll need 25 grams of white sugar and half a teaspoon of dry yeast. Once those are in the bowl, measure out 285 grams or milliliters of very cold water. I find that 285 is never enough when I try, so I aim for about 300. Slowly stream it into the mixer on low. Make sure you use the dough hook attachment and not the paddle. Continue slowly streaming the water. If the dough is stuck looking like this with dry bits, not coming together, add a little bit of extra water. It should come together and not stick to the sides of the bowl. Let it proof in that bowl for 15 minutes. Then you'll add 9 grams of salt and 15 grams of olive oil. Mix it on medium for a couple minutes. Cover it and let it proof at room temperature for a maximum of an hour and a half, preferably in some olive oil. Or you could let it proof in the fridge for longer. It'll stay good overnight and for a few days afterwards as well. This dough is good for 2 full-sized pizzas, by the way. While it proofs, go do something. Like edit the muffin video with a cat on your lap. For the toppings, I'm quote-unquote lucky to live in Montreal for the amazing cheeses. Get a high-quality mozzarella, shred it, and keep it in the freezer. This helps not get a large puddle of grease on the top while baking. Next I'm adding is mushrooms. Since I'm left-handed, it was always hard for me to show off proper cutting technique with my old setup, but all you need to do is keep your thumb and pinky tucked in, and glide the blade of the knife on your knuckles. I see too many food YouTubers not showing proper cutting techniques, and it really is as simple as that. Next is the peppers. These are in my freezer, which I don't recommend, but I wanted to make this pizza weeks ago. Cut it in half and take the core out. And I like to cut it in thin strands. Nothing's worse than really thick pieces of peppers on an all-dressed pizza. Now for the miserable process of rolling out our dough without any extra flour and a mat that won't stay still. To make your life easier, spread the dough with your fingertips into a circular shape, and then roll it out with a rolling pin. If you're in a situation like me, however, you're better off just going with your fingers. Also, before throwing your pizza on a tray like I am, make sure it's floured or cornmealed at the bottom. This pizza is inseparable from the tray later on. For the pizza sauce, you can use whatever sauce you know you like. I'm lucky enough to have a grandmother who sends me home with tons of sauce every time I see her, so I use hers. Next, if you can find this brand of pepperoni, or whichever one you like, shingle them over the sauce until it's filled out entirely. Next, you can add the toppings you prepared earlier, as much or as little as you like. Then the really cold cheese, and some extra pepperoni on top for those crispy pepperoni enthusiasts. Set your oven as high as it goes, typically around 500 Fahrenheit. Put it in for 10 minutes and check on the progress every 2 or 3 minutes until the cheese is brown to your liking. Now, I didn't hear my alarm at one point and I let it stay in a little bit too long, which burned the bottom a bit, but it's not a huge deal. This came out awesomely despite no extra flour to help prevent any stickage and burning, but it's all good. And the second one came out even better. I did this one in a rectangular pan since the first pizza was basically super glued to the tray. I hope you guys enjoyed.